Good morning, gang. I am going to do this from time to time because I think that I did some interviews last year where I had athletes send in questions, and then I shared it with everyone because I felt like everyone learned from the questions that people were asking. So from time to time, I'm going to do a couple little things, and hopefully it's helpful and adds to your toolbox. And so this one that I'm doing, I had Renee. She went and watched Ironman Texas. We had a few people from Endurance Corner Racing, and she lives close to there. We had a few people out there watching. Andre, Steven, you guys were out there watching. Stephen Cal was out there racing. So anyways, I had her do a little summary of some of the things I wanted her to, when you watch an Ironman, you can really learn a lot when you take some time to just pay attention rather than just be out there cheering for your friends and stuff like that, but really look at the athletes and pay attention to what you observe and remember those things when then you are out there racing. I think that you can really learn a lot from watching an Ironman. So some of the things that she noticed, with the swim stroke versus men and women, she noticed that the men have a longer, slower stroke rate, and the women have a little faster turnover. That has to do with a couple of things. When you open water swim, of course, turnover is going to be faster than classic pool swimming. We're dealing with different conditions. We're dealing with a crowd. We are in a wetsuit, so that faster turnover, more choppy type swim stroke is often the most effective as far as open water swim racing goes. There's a lot of stuff out there that you can read, and we can get into that a little deeper. I won't touch on that too much, but the other part of that is that typically men are a lot taller and they have a lot longer arms and legs, so they're going to move through the water much more like a canoe and use their power and strength and length of body, and it's going to be a little slower stroke rate versus you take someone who is smaller and a little bit less power and strength throughout their body, and they're going to rely on turnover a little bit more. So that's a big difference that you're noticing there. Different body types and different strength, and then, different heights. So that plays in a big factor when you're looking at turnover on swimmers and style of swimmers. The biggest thing that I wanted to address, there's a bunch of notes here, but obviously I can't make a video that's half an hour long, but the biggest thing is when you watch an Ironman, I like people to really notice what's happening late in the run. Okay, so you really look at people's faces and their bodies and their what they look like, all the way from professionals right down to the last finishers. And I can tell you from when those, whether it be they be professionals or the later finishers, how they start and how they end is exactly the same. And the biggest part of that is you can see that it's a strength endurance event, and I've noticed this from the first Ironman I ever watched, it's not about speed anymore. It's who broke down the least, So that has to do with early on pacing, nutrition, durability, but really you see a lot of people walking, you see a lot of people dealing with being very uncomfortable as far as their joints, their skin, even their stomachs. It's a point in the race where who looked after themselves well enough all day and paced appropriately for their ability, so that that last quarter of the race, they have slowed down less than anybody else. And that's how these events are done well. It's not necessarily going to be about speed, although we train speed because it's a specific, we're training something specific in the body to be a better athlete, to be prepared for these events. But the key factor in an Ironman, and that's why we always come back to the basics, and the key factor in Ironmans is a very, very long day, and it's about not breaking down. So, and that means mentally, and so figuring out how you are able to stay focused and strong for an entire day. That's going to be different for everyone. Some people, they need to be very happy all day. Some people are going to be, very focused all day. So that's different for everyone. But really being able to be out there and continue to push through anything that comes at you, because it's a long day and you're exercising from, let's say 6 a.m. till well into the afternoon, and for some people into the evening. A lot of stuff is going to happen to you. So how are you going to deal with that and continue to move forward and move through all of these obstacles? And then, of course, there's the nutritional factor. You need to be able to consume food and process it under very high stress circumstances. So whether that be heat or just the stress of exercising all day long. So without those calories, you can't continue. So having that workout, it can change for people, you know, from race to race, depending on conditions or how their body's handling things. But just, you know, having a steady stream of nutrition and fluids all day long, not overheating at any point, you know, staying nice and cool, and then pacing appropriately to your level so that you're able to lessen that breakdown later on in the day. You know, what feels easy early in the day or feels like no sweat at all, as the duration goes, it just gets harder and harder. And then, you know, managing things that come with going for a really long time and being out in elements and conditions all day long, things like sunburn, skin chafing, cramping. All of these things are things that we have to endure and manage all day long. It's a management game all day long. And who did a good job in that first 4 hours of the day to be able to continue to go around the same pace for the rest of the day. And in that last, you know, hour and a half where it really, really matters, and we need to make sure we break down the least. There's going to be a certain amount of breakdown for everyone. Even when you watch, you know, in Hawaii, the very top professionals who are winning, they don't look the same the last 10 kilometers of the marathon as they do when in the middle or the start of the marathon. But they do a good job of breaking down the least. So that's a skill that's really learned, and something to, when you watch an Ironman, really notice. And remember when you are out there racing that, yes, if you're walking the aid stations or you're, you know, dealing with a lot of adversity or discomfort, that everybody is. When you watch an Ironman, everybody is, but it's really who manages that the best and sets themselves up well all day to be able to manage that the best at the end of the day. Hopefully that's helpful. Cheers, guys.